Good Friday morning. It is the 14th of July and it is soon weekends. Another eventful day on the financial markets. We had S&P 500 moving higher above 4,500, still room up to around 45, 46, possibly testing the 4,600 and a change. We have these peaks here that we should look at. We saw the daily RSI above the 60 level and above the falling trend line. That's more important, and there's still divergence, but if it takes out the reading here, the peak here from end June, then we are likely to see higher highs. And again, the trend is your friend, and the trend is up. More or less the same picture on Nasdaq 100, above 15,571. We are looking at 16,000 before I think we will see a little bit of a correction, and we do need a correction. There's still divergence, but again, the trend is your friend, and we are trading in this on the weekly. You can see on this fairly narrow and steep, almost 45-degree angle here, getting closer and closer to all-time highs, previous peaks here back from 2021. On the European side, DAX is struggling a little bit. We are back above the cloud, but as you can see here, the RSI can't really get it back above 60, and we want it above 60 to get into bullish mode, bullish sentiment for a retest of the or possibly new all-time high. Struggling a little bit, but still we are in above the cloud here. AEX Amsterdam testing the 777. Spiking a little bit above, but trading around that level, a close above, and we are looking at 802. CAC40 still in a range trade here, just below 7,400. We need a close above for higher levels on CAC. Otherwise, we could be in this range, and you can also see the RSI is below 60, so struggling a little bit there. In Asian markets, that is about to close, or it should have been closed by now. Got rejected at 19,500, still below the falling trend line. We are still in a bearish mood, and I believe we could see the downtrend to resume. We are still below the cloud or in the cloud here, so there is a downside pressure on the Nikkei. Around 32,000, hovering around this level here. Seems like we are in for a little bit of a larger correction than what we have now. We need a break above 33,000 to resume uptrend, but it could look like we should drop down to the 55 simple moving average before moving higher. As you can see here, the weekly RSI is positive, no divergence, so we should move higher on the Nikkei JP 225 shortly. On the FX side, couple of days with a massive moves. Euro dollar very close to 112.70 level, which is the 138.2 projection of the most recent correction here. We are above 111.85, which was a resistance area. We are above the 200 weekly moving average. If we close above today, which I do believe we will, despite we are facing a little bit of a correction. The uptrend is clear. There should be room up to around 114.80 level, where there's some resistance. You see here the daily RSI above 60, no divergence. A little bit on the weekly, but it's likely to be traded out. The dollar index took out the key support 168 with a bang after a couple of tries, actually 1, 2, 3, 4 tries. That was the fifth one, and now there's room down to this consolidation area here around the 200 weekly moving average, between 98 and 97 over the next couple of weeks. Excuse me. RSI below 40, so we are in a bearish sentiment on both daily and weekly. On the yen pairs, dollar yen, let's zoom out a little bit. As you can see here, we have dollar yen A little bit larger correction than expected, but seems to find some support here just above 137. There is still downside risk down to the lower part of the cloud and the 618 retracement at 135.5. But I do believe it is overdone, and we could get a bounce back. If it can stay above the 137, well then we could see a short-term bounce up to around 140, around that level, back above, especially if we get back above the cloud here. So a bit of a tug of war going on, I believe. But look out for the downside also, potential to 61.8 retracement, which is not an unusual correction level when we are talking about FX. On the other yen pairs, we have euro yen bouncing from the lower rising trend line. Just above the 153 level, started slowly to move, bouncing back. 156 and a change, I believe, here in the next couple of days, testing the 21 moving average, and if it moves above that, well, then it could retest previous peaks here just around 156. The sterling yen, almost identical picture, bouncing from the lower rising trend line and support just around 179.90 level there. We still have bullish RSI despite the divergence here. If it gets back above the 60, then the uptrend is likely to resume. Cable, very strong uptrend here, likely to move higher. We have back above the 78. 6 retracement and resistance at 130.20 level there. So there's not really much resistance up until 137.5, but of course it won't happen in a straight line. I do believe we will see maybe a little bit around 133, a little bit of a setback before moving higher. But the short-term and medium-term uptrend quite strong. Indeed, we have on the Scandies, it's worth to check out again the EURNOK, where the shoulder-head-shoulder pattern is unfolding, bouncing a little bit here, but the trend is down, and it could drop down to around the 200 moving average and the around 11, just around that, I believe. I'm not quite sure we will get the full potential of the shoulder-head-shoulder pattern at 1080, but down to around this level here. On the commodities, we have gold that bounced very strong, or fairly strong, to 1963, which was the 38.2 retracement. I believe we'll see a little bit of a setback here next couple of days, where we will trade between 1925 and 1950. We have the 55 moving average coming down there, kind of providing some resistance, but the 100 moving is up. So there's a little bit of tug of war going on. We would like to see the RSI back above 60 before we really get into bullish mode, really. Silver, we need the weekly chart here. Silver above 24.50. That was not much of a resistance this time. We are back above the cloud, and there should be room up to 25, 26, around 26 level, 26.5, before we peak out on at least the short term. One of the other metals, copper, trying to get back above the 396.97, just below the 400 here. We are back in bullish mode. We are back in positive sentiment on the RSI, so we should see a move higher towards the 400. But the falling trend line could be a little bit of a struggle. And let's zoom in a little bit on the weekly chart. 61.8 retracement at 404. So I believe we will test this area here in coming week or so. If we break above, well, then there's room up to 435. Energy, especially here we have Brent oil moving higher. Resistance around 83, and we have the 200 moving average coming down. Bullish mode on the RSI, so it seems like we could move higher, but there is quite some resistance here. So, but if we close above the 83, well, then there's a potential up to 87. But let's see when we come to that. On the WTI, testing the 200 moving average, where we have the resistance around 79 that you should look out for. And finally, on yields, US 10-year Treasury yields did drop below the rising trend line, but you have to remember these rising and falling trend lines are not that strong. They're merely just guidelines, so to speak. Whereas horizontal trend lines, they are much more powerful. And seems like we have US 10-year finding support here at 375, dipping just below the 38.2 retracement, and I think we will see the yields rebounding back above the rising trend line here going into next week, and you see there's no divergence on the RSI, and you're still in bullish mode. So I think we will see the uptrend to resume. All right, that was a long one today, and I think we'll stop here. Have a nice weekend and talk to you again Monday.